Hello fellow modelers, Bruce here again. I'm about to develop a small stream that would be the entrance to my Bangor slate scene. And I thought I would document how I go about both planning the stream bed and creating it. So this video will start now with some planning ideas and then go in short snips as I progress through each step. First of all, cutting any scenic item into a layout is much easier if you're using foam as the base for your layout, which I am here. My old layout back in New Jersey, the original Jersey Highlands, had a plywood base, and when I cut my stream, obviously I had to cut the plywood and then create a new base at below the level of the stream bed out of plywood again, and then build everything up. Much easier if you plan ahead and do this during the construction progress rather than doing it after the fact like I did back in New Jersey. But anyway, my shelf here has 2 layers of foam. 1.5 inch thickness foam on the bottom, which you see here, and then a 1-inch piece on top, neither of which right now are glued down. You can see I can lift both levels up. And the reason they're not glued down yet is exactly for this particular project, the stream, because I wanted to be able to pull this foam out to cut the stream bed and do whatever work I'm going to do on it, and then when I get everything the way I want it on the stream, then glue these 2 layers of foam down. So yeah, planning ahead, especially when you're dropping below the level of your base, which up here is 2.5 inches high of foam. Now, when you're creating anything like a stream or a road that is going on a shelf directly into the backdrop, it's always hard. Let me bring this up a little bit. I mean, we only have about 10.5, 11 inches here. It's always hard to make things blend together back at the backdrop level. It is helped if your road, or in this case your stream, curves. That is going to help not having your eye follow a straight line right into the backdrop. I'll give you some other tips later on, but you can see I've put a curve in here. With roads, I'd probably even have a steeper curve, but for my purposes on the stream, this should suffice, especially with a bridge in place to help hide the fact that it's disappearing into the backdrop. And so I've cut through the top layer first, and now I can adjust the width of the stream by simply sliding these 2 pieces of foam apart until I get the width of the stream that you want. Now you can see already that I have also done some cutting into my 1.5 inch base of foam, and it looks rough. Let me zoom in on it here a minute and you'll see just how rough I'm talking about. It's fairly rough there, that's for sure, but I'm going to be smoothing that out. Some people I've seen use plaster, obviously. Others have used, I've even seen some people use layers of tissue soaked in white glue and then smooth everything out and get it conformed the way you want. I'm going to use ground goop, and you might have seen one of my recent updates on that ground goop that I made back in New Jersey 7 years ago, and I will be using for this project as well. Here comes a second tip when it comes to blending a foreground into the background on a very narrow shelf, besides putting a bend in it. I use a technique that's called let the land rise. In this case, the land is the base of the stream bed, because your eye is going to start along this stream bed and then follow an upturn, which gets your eyes starting looking upward instead of directly into the backdrop. In the case of this stream, what it also does is give me a waterfall capability in the back of this stream, which is what I'm going to do. So, again, planning ahead, you have the width that you have to plan. Do I want a narrow stream? Do I want a wider stream? That's going to affect the type of bridge you're going to use. The other thing, of course, is the depth. How deep do you want it? If you're going to use a bridge, you want it at least deep enough that it would justify using a bridge rather than putting a culvert in and covering it up with rock and dirt. So yeah, I made it through the top inch and then about halfway down through the pink. So as I put my scale here, let me get the HO scale the way I want it, and I put the depth here, I am seeing that it's at about 14 feet deep down in from the level of the ground to the base of the stream. And yeah, I think that would justify using a bridge. The type of bridge you use, it will depend on how wide the gap is, and of course how deep it is, and also the error that you're modeling. And in my case, I wanted to use an existing bridge. Since I have made a number of bridges in the past, I want to use them again on this layout. And my first thought was I would put a queen post bridge in there. And a queen post bridge out of wood looks something like this. And then after seeing it in place, and this is another thing that really helps, is if you have the models ahead of time, which I do, start placing them in place and seeing what it looks like. I determined that really for the depth here and so forth, this bridge is just a little bit too big for the scene. So I'll use it someplace else on the layout. Luckily, I had also in the past scratch built what's known as a king post bridge. And the king post bridge only has a single truss in the middle. And sliding this back to the width that I've determined it to be, I'll bring it in even a little more right now, just to suspend the bridge. You can see that the king post bridge does not dominate the scene the way the other one did, so it's a much better choice for this particular scene. So I'll be going with the king post bridge. So the next item is, what do I do with the walls of this gorge that supposedly was eaten out over eons through a river and now what's a stream? And so I want to coat these walls. Now I could move this back a little bit and slope it and just make it dirt with bushes and so forth on it. But at 14 feet, if you were going to do that, I would step it so that you had some scenery that sloped down to this level and then down to the stream. But I decided I wanted to make a rock face on this wall on each side. And I considered a couple options, and one is this Heki, H-E-K-I material that curves nicely and looks like rock face. Let me see if I can move the camera so you just get a feeling for what that would look like there. So that was one option, conform it to the curve and cut it down to the right height and so forth, and that would certainly work. This stuff actually looks fairly realistic when you get it in place and touch it up a little bit with some highlights, and on these little shelves that come out, put a little green ground foam for foliage growing and so forth. So that is certainly an option. My other thought was to build up what will look like a cliff. Let me get a few of these in place here, out of ceiling tile material. And that also curves nicely and can be etched on its face to look like striations of levels of rock. And since we're in a slate pit area, that would work. Color it a little grayish and so forth. And then your bridge will sit on here and on something similar on the other side. And again, that's an option, and that's the one I'm leaning towards using. So yeah, I've done a lot of planning and given you some insight into what goes on in my head when I am trying to make a scene like this. What I need to do is, I think, start down here at the base with my ground goop, leveling this up a little bit and creating the cascade back here and change of levels for my little waterfalls and rapids. And give that an overnight to set, and then start working on the side walls. And once that's done, it comes to painting both the base and the side walls. And the last step is to create your water effect, which on a small stream like this, I don't think I'm going to do a pour of resin or anything like that. I think I'm going to get a good color on the base and then start just putting a few layers of gloss water-based polyurethane just to make it look like glossy water. And we'll see what I do on the waterfalls, but it doesn't have to be anything fancy here. It's not a tall falls. It could just be coming over the rocks and trickling down. Along the way, if you have some plaster castings of rocks, you can embed them in the ground goop. You color these first and embed them in the ground goop, and you have the water coming around the rocks and so forth. And that's how you create a scene. So when I come back, I'll probably come back after I have the ground goop in place and I'm working on the side walls to give an update. So I'll see you then. Okay, just a quick update here. This is a day later. I've spread ground goop down into the base of the stream bed. I've kind of made the first waterfall and the shorter little waterfall rapids area evened out a bit, getting ready for the base coat of coloring for the stream bed. I've put the first layer of ceiling tile on both sides. They were held down with yellow carpenter's glue, and then I used T-pins like this one to hold them in place until the glue was dry. And now I could, of course, put the second layer of foam back in. Oh, the first layer of pink foam is glued down now, using liquid nails for projects, which is good for foam. And I could put that second layer of foam in on both sides, but I am not going to do that. I'm going to work on the stream bed until I get it pretty much finished, and then put the second layer of foam in and the next layers of ceiling tile cliff, because it's easier for me right now to work on the stream bed without reaching down in a narrow crevice another inch. So we'll hold the top layer of foam in abeyance while I continue to work on this. Next steps would be to work on the stream bed itself. What I'm thinking of doing is, this would be fine. You can have the water come right to the cliff base, but I'm thinking of coming in and putting in a strip of shoreline, which would be raised up a little bit above the stream bed, probably on both sides, maybe ending it before you get to this rock here that you can't see until I zoom out a little bit. There you go. So I've embedded a rock here into the ground goop, and I'll probably put the shoreline in here, maybe have it come out a little bit and back in here so water can get around both sides of the rock, and a little shoreline over here. That gives me the ability to do some additional scenery work down at the shore level and narrow the stream down a little bit. So I think I'll do that, And then it comes time to work on the coloring of the stream base and the waterfall base and so forth. So yeah, that'll be next steps, and then I'll give you an update. Okay, this is going to be my first attempt at coloring the bottom of a stream bed. I know the theory. The theory is to start at the edge of the water with something that might look like sand or the dirt color that's prevalent in the area, and then come with a next darker color, which in my case will be blue, and then I have some green to go to the deepest area, and then blend them all together with a nice soft brush. And I got a number of nice soft brushes here, and hope that I'll manage to do something that's credible. If not, I just paint over it and wait a day and come back and do it again. So for the stream edge, now what I did, and you can probably see it here, was instead of letting the whole base be the same level, I put a shoreline here, which you can see, raised up a bit, and that'll give me the ability to put some scenic effects in there. Same thing is true on this side, which you can't see. So when I do my stream bed, I have to just go between those two raised areas. And up here, which some of it will be covered with a waterfall later, but I'll do the same thing. I'll come in from the edge with the tan and go from there. So my colors are Deco Art Sandstone, acrylic craft paint. For the blue, I'm going to try using Liberty Blue, which is an apple barrel color. Not sure it's the right color here, but everything's going to get blended together. And Wooden Scenics product that's actually made for underwater. It's called a Water Undercoat, Moss Green. I didn't buy that. One of the recent, well, prior to COVID, one of the recent conventions I went to, I got that as a door prize. So we'll give them all a try. We'll try to do the blending and just see how it goes. And as I said, if it's a strikeout, then I just start over again with painting the whole thing the base color and start from there. So I'm going to start by putting some of the tan color near the sides. And I guess I should do the same thing on the other side. I can work them together. And then I'll put some of the blue next to it. And just a little bit of the green in the middle. Then we'll try the old blending them together idea. You just have to promise not to laugh too loud. At least I don't want to hear it on this side of the... I've got some water over here, probably out of your view, to clean the brushes. And we will now start. Get a different brush here, and I'll just start painting the Got a little bit too much of the tan here, I think, so get rid of some of that. And then we'll get some of the blue and mix it in with a little bit of this tan. Feather the edges, as they say, and pick up a little bit of green. Well, it does blend. Whether it's going to look anything like a stream bed is still open for anybody's guess here. Well, the blue color doesn't look too bad, actually, for the watercolor. I think I'm going to need to bring more of the green color in here. It's not showing up basically at all. So let me get more of the green. All right, and back to the blending. You're not hearing much talking. I realize I have to work pretty quick as this stuff is starting to set up here. Take two on painting the stream bed. Wasn't at all happy actually with the results of take one, so I'm trying a different approach this time. I'm sticking with two colors. The Liberty Blue, which I did like the look of when I had it down there pretty much full strength as far as a watercolor, and this is one of my old treasures, I'll tell you, because this is Folk Art Icy White, number 701. Don't have any idea whether it's still available. It is a whitish with a bluish tinge that I had very good luck with on my first attempt at a waterfall many years ago, just putting highlights on the ripples on the waterfall. And I would say this dates back to the late 80s, very early 90s. Still in good shape. And what I did was, to try to keep the tones in the same color range, was I simply took the full strength Liberty Blue, I added some of the Icy White, and now I have a paint that is in the same hue as the darker blue, but just a lighter blue to put in the shallower water. So I'm going to try that, and we'll come back and take a look at the results. Okay, I think we'll take another look at the stream bed. Now that I've gotten the variations of the blue color in there, and you can see some of the white highlights using that icy white on the face of the little waterfalls, the change in elevations there. And I still now am working on the side of the stream, on the side where I have glued the second layer of foam. And so yeah, I'm still playing around with that, and now a couple more coats. I've put one coat of Liquitex acrylic medium, gloss medium, on top of the paint to give it a bit of gloss. I'm going to be putting another coat or two of that on. One of the nice things about using the ground goop is you can put the formations, like the rocks on the front of that waterfall and the second lower rapids, right into the base. And same thing a little bit around this rock. You can see here I put some white highlights on a raised area that I have. So yeah, now I'm going to be coming back, finish up the work on that cliff face there, and then add some ground effects on that shoreline on that side, and then I'll start working on this side. I have to bring this piece of foam in to the right position, add more of the ceiling tile to it, and do the same thing I did on the other side, and then work on the bridge. So since this video is getting a bit long, I think I'll do this creating the stream in 2 steps, and this will be the end of the first video. So once again, I encourage you that if you enjoyed the video, give it a like, and if you have not yet subscribed, please subscribe. Until later, talk to you soon.